What's up, what's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we discuss the arts, science, and business of comedy with comedians and comedian adjacent. With this episode's guest, Jennifer Lieberman. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, welcome to Done Way Past Funny, where we discuss the arts, science, business, and psychology of comedy with comedians and comedian adjacent. I'm your host, G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist at large, but I'm losing weight. So I tell myself, my scale doesn't believe me. In this episode, it is my pleasure to be conversing with actress, producer, writer, comedian, and author, Jennifer Lieberman, or as we call her back in the hood, Jen. Hi Jen, how's it going?
Hi, GD. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
The pleasure is mine. Now, for anyone who may not know who you are, and I can't imagine who those four people are, if you do not mind telling people a little bit about yourself, where you are, where you can be stalked on social media if you want, or any little pertinent information you want them to know.
Yeah, I would love to. So I am Jen Lieberman, and that is my social media handle. I am Jen Lieberman. And I'm an actor who got tired of waiting to get picked. So I started writing and producing. I started doing stand-up comedy. I started doing almost anything that I can think of or that people suggested to get a foot in the door, to break down a door, to bust open a door. That led me to becoming a filmmaker, becoming an author, becoming a producer. And I just keep collecting hats. And I don't trade hats, like some people might trade in one hat for another. I just keep collecting them all. And it's been a really fascinating journey, and I'm totally enjoying the ride.
Now, it almost sounds like you would have been great at improv, because it sounds like your philosophy is just say yes.
Yes, and.
Oh, yes, and. So, yes, and. Yes, and I will do that and keep that hat.
I have done some improv, and I actually find improv terrifying because you just don't know what's going to happen. Like stand-up comedy, you kind of know where you're going. You have your set. And of course, there's going to be stuff that happens in the audience. There's going to be stuff that happens with other comedians on stage. Like some of my best material was calling back to what other comedians did on stage before me. And some material came out of crowd work and working with the room and the audience. But improv to me, like there's no, even though there's some sort of structure, you don't know what words the audience is going to throw out. You don't know where it's going to go. So to me, like that's terrifying. Like I flex that muscle in class from time to time. I'll pop into improv classes that I like when I'm in LA. But oh man, I have so much respect for those improv comics, man.
Yeah, so I'm trying not to make this about me, but it's a conversation. So I have a show that I produce. It's called Spotlight on Insanity. And what we do is I have a host, and the host is an improv group. Mm-hmm. And so they come out and they will do they'll do like 10 minutes with the audience, and then they'll introduce the first comedian. And when that comedian's done, they come back out and they do improv based on that comedian's material. Mm-hmm. And so, and I like that format a lot. I have a few different formats that I use, but I like that one when it comes to mixing improv and stand-up. I like that.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. That sounds like such a cool show. I want to come see it.
Oh, thank you. I will have to bring it to Toronto. As a matter of fact, if I bring it to Toronto, because I'll tell you what, honestly, if it looks like I'm going to bring it to Toronto, I will reach out to you because I'm going to need somebody local who may know an improv group because I don't know any improv groups in Toronto. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes, totally. Totally. Keep me on the
all
list.
right.
Call me. Let me know.
Yes, yes, I will do
And
that.
I'll bring
Now,
30 of my closest
now,
friends.
I don't even have 30 non-close friends. I don't even have 30 distant friends. Let's see here. Um, I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about makeyourownbreak.com, but in the process of doing that, we're going to probably talk because that encompasses so much. We'll probably be able to branch off from there to different things. So makeyourownbreak.com. And well, you can describe it better than me if you don't mind.
Okay, so I started a company called Make Your Own Break. And basically, it stemmed from my own experience of was tired of waiting. Like I said at the top of the show, I'm an actor who got tired of waiting to get picked and started creating my own opportunities. And the first one was a solo show. I created a one woman show for myself that was specifically designed to be a showcase piece to invite industry when I first got to LA. I had been in LA about a year, and I came from New York, born in Maple, Ontario, went to New York to get into theater, then decided, to get into film production, and that's what took me to LA. And so about a year in, I wasn't getting any traction, right? And I didn't have a reel since I had been doing theater for a few years in New York.
Right.
So somebody suggested create a solo show, create a one woman show, invite some industry. That could be a good way to let people know, like, I'm here. So I took that advice and that's what I did. And the show didn't necessarily achieve my goal of getting industry in the room to see me. It didn't get me an agent or a manager. It didn't get some big director to come in. Rita Wilson didn't show up in the crowd and turn it into a feature film like she did for Big Fat Greek Wedding, which, by the way, started off as a one-woman show by
Right.
another Canadian female actress who got tired of waiting, named Nia Vardulos. So that didn't happen, but I realized I was more creatively fulfilled creating that show in my living room, and the characters I was coming up with and the jokes and the emotional through line. And I realized, like, I'm a pretty good writer. Like, I can do this, number one. And number two, I played 10 characters. So I was able to
Yes.
push myself beyond any limits, any typecasting. Like, I could break through all of the little boxes people wanted to put me in. So on so many levels, I was like, wow, like this is really cool. And then aside from that, doing a one person show where you're on stage for an hour and 20 minutes by yourself, that's like the triathlon of acting. That's what I
Yes.
like to compare it to, right? And like, even if you're a runner or a biker, you're not necessarily going to do the triathlon where you got to swim, you got to run, you got to bike, and like doing like an
Yes.
Ironman. So solo shows are kind of like the Ironman of acting,
Yes. Yes.
where like you're not only are you on stage by yourself, you're stand-up comedy, you're on stage by yourself, but until you become in like the top 1%, you're not doing a 1 hour special.
Right.
Like most comedians out there have got their 15 minutes, their 20 minutes, their half
Yeah.
hour, but it's very rare for a comedian to get to that 1 hour time slot. That's like the 1%. And then the 0.01% are the Maniscalcos and the Jerry Seinfelds and the people who get their own TV shows and these huge careers. So I kind of compare doing a solo show to that. And so I realized, like, wow, like I was really worth my salt. Like, I had more in me than I gave myself credit for. And until you do it, you just don't know. And And that show kind of opened some doors for me. I got into a festival in New York. I won an Audience Choice Award. And it led to me getting cast in a one-woman show in Australia. And I got flown to Australia and paid to do a show there, which was like crazy. But I realized I had so many frustrated actor friends, and I could help them do what I did. And prior to my own solo show, I produced a couple of solo shows for friends from acting class.
Right.
Never thought I would do one. Like, I didn't do it to learn how to do it. I didn't do it to watch their process. I literally did it just because I thought these women were so talented and was like, oh my God, you're so great. I would love to be a part of this. I would be, love to help get you to where you're going, just to be a part of it because it's so cool. So yeah, that's kind of how Make Your Own Break started, when I realized like I could level the playing field for myself. I was like, I can help my friends do this. And I had produced, I was in New York, I ran an off-Broadway theater company in the East Village. And I had got into film production, and I worked as a AD, an associate producer on small little film projects. So whether it was on stage or on screen, I had the ability to help people create and launch their own vehicles. And that's basically how Make Your Own Break started. And I developed a couple of workshops, or getting hired for one-on-one consulting for a specific project, helping with budgets, helping with script development. I know it's a long-winded discussion, but
no problem. Yeah,
that's basically how Make Your Own Break came about. Like, and as I kept doing these things for myself, I kept helping other people do it for themselves. So I kind of keep juggling. Even now, I keep juggling back and forth between doing my own projects and then helping other people with their, producing their projects, consulting with production plans, budgets, script development, just kind of depending whatever they need, and teaching these workshops on theater production, solo show development. Yeah, basically what I did for myself, helping other people do it for themselves.
Now, when you were doing your one-woman show for yourself, or I'm going to say one-person show, your solo show for yourself, as opposed to when you're helping other people do theirs, what did you learn about doing the solo show, your own solo show? What did you learn doing that one that you did not learn doing the ones for others?
Yeah. Ooh, great question. Great question. So when I was producing for other people, I did not realize hands-on the vocal and physical stamina it takes.
Right.
So, literally reading the script out loud twice a day, every single day, not just reading the script. Reading the script is one element, but actually doing it out loud and doing it while doing a physical activity, because you're not standing at a podium on stage. You're dynamic, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of running back and forth, and also the emotions, right? When we get emotional, whether it's a high-pitched, excited emotion or a crying emotion, our emotions take a toll on us because each emotion kind of has a different vocal tone and vocal level. So watching these people do it, I wasn't there for their at-home vocal work, or their, going to the gym or working out or jogging on the treadmill, doing their lines. Right. So that was stuff that was an extra, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
when I was doing it for myself. And I was really fortunate. The guy I was seeing at the time got me a gym membership So I was at the gym every single day, and I
Right.
closed off my workout in the evening because I'd be at work during the day. So I go in the evening and I would close out the workout after I do a cardio class. I would end in the pool and I would
Okay.
swim laps back and forth, reciting every single line of the show. And I wouldn't give myself a time limit for the swim. I wouldn't count the laps. I would literally start swimming and doing the lines, and I would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for well over an hour until every single word of the show had been spoken aloud. I wasn't projecting, I didn't
Right.
want to
Right. Right.
there were other people. It was a lane swim. There were other people in the pool, but it was audible for me, and I was swimming doing the lines because I wanted to make sure that I was on my breath
Yes.
and that I could physically get through the entire show. So like for at least 2 months, I was doing that swim every single day.
Now, when I talk to young comedians, I've done a number of 90-minute shows,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I tell young comedians, I said, you're working on your 5 minute set, your 7 minute set, your 10 minute set. I said the first time you do a 20 minute or 30 minute set, that's when you're going to realize how much stamina it takes. Even if you're like, now I do move around. I move around. I do act outs. I do a lot of act outs when I perform. And part of that is strategy, because in my mind, there are 12 different types of people in the audience. And not everybody appreciates the same type of sense of humor or even the same way it's delivered. So I can deliver a joke with a microphone in my hand. I can deliver it as well as any other stand-up comedian. And then there's going to be, let's say 40% of the people who would have gotten it better or enjoyed it more if they'd seen it acted out. So that's why I perform the way I do, because I'm trying to include all 12 of the types of people in my head. I mean, I'm sure someone else will break down and go like, actually, there's 43 different types of people in the audience. I said, no, I've combined them. Okay, it's like Hollywood. I compress them, just like Hollywood does. So, so I let these young people know that you have to develop the stamina, because I've watched them. They'll get to when it starts doing 7 minute sets. They'll start leaning on the mic stand. They'll start fidgeting their feet. They're not taking deep breaths, so they're running out of air in the middle of their setup. And they don't understand how important all that stuff is.
Well, that's the thing. When you're a performer, what is our instrument? What instrument are we playing? Our
Yes,
body. Our voice is
yes,
our instrument, our energy. And when the comedian on stage starts to lose energy, well, then the
yes,
audience, like, forget it. If you're
yes.
losing energy, if you're getting tired in your own set, the whole audience is like, okay, looking at their watch, like, okay, when's this over already?
Yeah.
And it does.
And
It
that's where
takes
hecklers come in. A lot of hecklers come in at that time too.
Yeah, and it does. So that's the one big takeaway that I didn't realize when I started doing my own show, that I needed to train like I was an Olympic athlete. And physicality is one, breath is another, because like you said, if you're running out of breath, you can't speak. Our sounds come from our breath. And then the
Yes.
other one is actually working on the voice and building up that vocal stamina because it's not natural. Even you and I right now, if we talk
Right.
for an hour, it's neither one of us talking for an hour straight or even 10 minutes
Right.
straight. It's a tennis match of back and forth, and we're bouncing the ball back and forth to each other.
Right.
So it's so unnatural, to speak for that amount of time when you're starting out, and if you haven't flexed that muscle yet.
Yeah, I one of the when I'm preparing for one of my for a 90-minute show or hour to 90 minutes, I ride my bicycle through the neighborhood while I'm listening to and reciting it, or if I don't jog. Okay, the closest thing that comes to jogging is I do a fast-paced walk to my mailbox, which is like 500 to 600 feet from my house. That's the closest thing to jogging. But I do that while I'm reciting. So I'm like jogging, and so I can say the words and try to get them right and breathe and make sure I'm not tired. I don't want to get exhausted in the middle of a set, and that's part of it. I mean, when most people hear that you do 90-minute shows, yeah, that's a long time. It's like, well, it's a theater. It's a production. See,
Yes.
people are thinking that it's you're doing stand up for 90 minutes. Like, no, I've produced a show. I'm entertaining for 90 minutes. It just so happens that comedy is the muse, so to speak. That's the language that I'm speaking. But it would be no
Hmm.
different if I was doing a dramatic reading for 90 minutes, or if I was doing anything else for 90 minutes. If you
Yeah.
have to captivate the audience, and you have to be able to command the audience as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and you can't do that if you have no energy, period.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to have more energy than that whole audience, and that audience is gonna be made up of, dozens, 100, a couple hundred people, and you have to be able to, kind of have enough energy that all eyes are gonna be on you for the entire amount of time. Yeah, which is a talent in itself, and some people have a natural ability, which is great. It's a great starting off point, but that's not going to carry you through if you don't have skill and you don't have technique that you're working on.
Now, when you were writing now we said this just unless I'm mistaken, I believe the one person show you're referring to is Year of the Slut.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
the one
correct.
you're
You're
okay?
the slut.
Year of the Slut, which is also a book now.
Yes, the book has a different title because the title was censored, but the
Was
novel
it
is Year of the What.
right? Yeah, because I was going to say the other name that I know it by is Year of the What. That's
Correct.
the book. But the Year of the What and Year of the Slut are basically the same thing. They just changed the title so that people wouldn't be offended, I guess.
Yeah, and so I could sell more copies and not have to fight with the bots online because you're not dealing with a human censoring, you're dealing with bots censoring ads. I ran into a lot of trouble with that on social media, on Amazon. I even tried to get publicists. They wouldn't work with me because of that word. So it posed quite a big hurdle, and changing the title was the only way to navigate around it. And eventually I just kind of threw in the towel and was like, fine, if this is what I have to do in order to, to get to my audience, then I'll do it.
Well, just
And
imagine the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
No, say just imagine the problem they would have had if you called to get your fuck on.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I know. I
I'm
know.
okay. For those of you, most of you are not going to get that. I'm going to play the video, and you'll hear her say it. It's part now in the Year of the Slut. Matter of fact, I'm just going to play that little section there. I'm just going to. It's just a little bit, right? Yeah. I'm okay. Here we go.
The year of the slut. The year of the what? Bubby, the year of the slut? What is this, like an STD? It sounds like a disease.
The year of the slut, Jay. The year of the slut was the year I came out. The year of the slut. Yeah.
It's the year of the good girls, how you say. Get your fuck on.
Now that was you had 10 different characters in that one person show in your solo show. What were the inspirations for the 10 characters? Because sometimes people do the characters and they're based on different aspects of their own personality, and then sometimes it's people you meet on the street or in your family. And the ones that were external inspirations, do they know that they inspired those characters?
Probably not, well, not really. So, okay, the woman with the French accent who kind of
Yes.
bookended that clip.
Yes.
The first time I ever heard the phrase "year of the slut" is I was in my early 20s and I was working as the day manager at a restaurant in Tribeca. And lunches tended to be kind of slow, like dinners. There was a celebrity kind of following with the restaurant at dinner time. It had like a top Zagat rating at the time. It was a really hot restaurant. It was kind of new. And but lunches were kind of slow, and I'd chat with the sous chef, and I wasn't really happy in my relationship at the time. And, he could tell that I was, it was kind of crashing and burning slowly. But also, I was in love and, had waited for the one and thought that this was going to be my one and only. And he's like, no, you haven't hit 25 yet. Like, you're still young. I think I was like 21 or 22 at the time.
Okay.
He's like, oh, no, you're still young. He's like, just wait until you hear 25. 25 is the year of the slut. It's the year all the good girls realize they've spent like their hottest years, like being prude and being, being shut down. And he's like, once 25 hits, you're gonna have a little bit of a sexual awakening. And, to me, like at the time, I was like, I will never be a slut. Like, what are you talking about? And, I was like, I saved myself. I'm going to be with this man forever. And
how long did forever last? No, just no.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that was the first time I ever heard of the term year of the slut. And it was this guy, Rick. And for the life of me, I can't remember his last name. Otherwise, I would credit him. I would find him online and be like, you inspired my career just with that one phrase. But I can't remember who he is, and I can't remember how to find him. But so that French character is a chef in a restaurant, but I turned her into a French woman because we also had like this French waitress who worked in the restaurant. She was middle-aged. She was probably like in her 40s at the time, and she was very French and very sexually liberated. And, she was not looking for a husband. She had lovers. She had lots of lovers, and I just kind of like, as a young, naive person who'd only been with one partner, and I was just like, oh my gosh, kind of a slut, Which nowadays I would never make that judgment. I would be like, you do you, like, go for it, girl, go get it, go have your fun. It's none of my business how you want to live your life. But it's funny how when we're younger, and we haven't lived as much, we haven't, this woman had been divorced twice and had been dragged through the mud. So yeah, she didn't want another husband. She didn't want another, person to take care of. She wanted to go, get wined and dined, have her dates, and then go home and have her peace and quiet, because she was at a very different stage of her life. So I basically combined, I can't even remember that woman's name either. And I combined those two people and made them that one.
Okay. You can remember all these lines, but you can't remember these people's name. Is this like some sort of Alzheimer's that we don't know about? just people, only people that have contributed to my craft whose names I forget. Alzheimer's, I think it's called.
No, you know what? I think it's just through my travels. I've worked with so many people at this point in time. I've worked with so many people, and there was also, like, these are people I worked with, for a couple of months here and there. I didn't work with them for years. So those are two of the characters. And then one of the characters is based on my old roommate in New York, who was, very sexually liberated, very promiscuous. But I turned her into like somebody with a Texan accent, so I could, certain characters, like I gave them an accent. I made them from somewhere else so I can turn them into something, more interesting and to distinguish them from the other characters. And that woman did drop out of school to become a dominatrix. And one of her famous lines in the show is like, I make lawyer money in that dungeon in Texas. And she really did. Like, she dropped out of a full ride to school. She was a genius. She had a full ride and dropped out of school. And she's like, I make lawyer money. Like, what do I need to go to law school for? And she worked in a dungeon in Chelsea, and I was just like, I did not sign up for this, because I was like, once again, young, naive girl from Maple, Canada. I signed up to live with a very bright, intelligent girl who had a full scholarship and was going to college. Not a dominatrix working at a dungeon in Chelsea. So yeah, that was another character. And I do know her name, but for her own privacy,
I understand.
I'm not going to say who she is.
I'm going to call it Alzheimer's when we can't remember the names of people who contributed to our craft. That's it.
Alzheimer's. That's perfect.
Alzheimer's. Yes.
Exactly. I have Alzheimer's when it comes to revealing my sources and my inspiration.
Okay. That's it. So we have a new thing. We have a new word. We've created a word, Alzheimer's. And
I love it. I love it. So and then one of the characters was based on my mom, but my mom is a Canadian woman. She was born in Tunisia, Africa. So she doesn't talk like a New York Jew, but I just felt like a Jewish mother. Everybody thinks the Jewish mother talks like this. So I was going to talk like this to be the Jewish mother.
Now, and also as far as stereotypes go, at least helping the audience along, if you say Jewish mother, they kind of have like an idea, even if they don't know what a Jewish mother looks like, they have an idea of the persona. If you said a Canadian mother, they'd be like,
yeah. And my mom was born in Tunisia, North Africa, so she's a Jewish mother, but she's not the stereotypical Eastern European New Yorker Jewish mother. There's Jewish mothers from all over the place. And mine happens to be from Tunisia, and my lineage goes back over 2,000 years in Tunisia. Wow. So, I know it's pretty crazy history, but that's a whole other show. It's a whole other show to get into.
Is there a family crest? Is there a family crest that goes with that 2,000 years?
We don't have a family crest, but we do have like a lineage that goes back to like the priestly line of the temple in Jerusalem.
Wow. That's impressive. That's incredible.
Yeah, wow. It's pretty crazy. So, just a little aside, but the Kohanim were like the priests in the temple in Jerusalem. And after the destruction of the first temple, a number of them fled to Jerba, which is an island in the Mediterranean as part of Tunisia. And that's where my grandfather's from. And so he's part of that lineage that I guess established that island.
Cool.
Over 2,000 years ago after the destruction of the first temple.
Now, this is so we're talking about makeyourownbreak.com. Well, Make Your Own Break, that's the name of the company, Make Your Own Break. Your website is makeyourownbreak.com. You offer consulting and you offer workshops. In the consulting, it says, let me check my notes. Production consulting for film and for theater. Yes, I said theater. Yes, I said theater. Sorry, just in case there's somebody saying he didn't say theater, he said theater, right? Because that's how I talk sometimes.
That's okay. And I say theater.
And you also do workshops, independent theater productions, and solo shows. So I guess we can talk about the consulting portion first.
Sure. So yes, I work both in film and theater. So my solo show was a stage piece. And like I said, I used to run a theater company in the East Village, and I produced several off Broadway productions there. And then I produced the solo shows for friends in LA before I did my own. And I've continued to have one foot in the theater. I did a solo show in Australia. I continue to do theater. I never stopped doing theater. But I also do film and on-screen work. So I produced a web series called Dump Water Divas, which is like one of my favorite things I've ever done. And that's on YouTube. It was a total failure. Like nobody watched it. Nobody signed up. Nobody was interested. But that's okay, because that's the thing with art. You just have to like bleed your soul onto the page or the screen or the stage. And some people get it, and a lot of times they don't. And a lot of times people don't show up. And the reality of being a creative is you're going to have way more failures than successes. Way more. Like
Now,
way more. And you just have to be okay with that. And as long as you have fun doing it and you get something out of the process, it was a success.
Yes.
And so for me, Dump Water Divas was a wild success, even though it never succeeded. Like, I had the best time. I got to create my crazy characters. I wrote it with a writing partner. We cast actors who took it to a level of absurdity we never even dreamed it would go. Like, it was just so great. And then I have several short films that I've written and produced and starred in. And I've won some awards. I've gotten to go to international festivals. 2 of my projects screened at the Cannes Film Festival in the Short Film Corner. So like when I said, like, I wear a lot of hats. So not only can I help people with their theater stuff, I can also help them with their film stuff, because I do that too. And, I'm currently in development with a feature film. I've made several shorts. I've made a web series. Feature film is a bigger beast because it takes a lot more money and a lot more manpower. My short films I was able to do for a few $1,000s, get a lot of stuff donated, get people to work for half their rate or free, and just do it in a day or two. And it's a lot easier to get people to donate their time for a day or two than 20 days of shooting and 20 days of equipment and 20 days, and then months of editing and hours of music. And, so I do have a feature, and that'll be my next big thing that I'm working towards. So I consult with all of that stuff, and script development for features as well. I do budgets and production schedules for features too, because I've associate produced a feature and I put the schedule and the budget and everything together for that. And I have experience with it. So kind of all over the place, but all in the same kind of swimming pool.
Now, when it comes to budget, a friend of mine who's done a few films says that when you have $1 to make a movie, you actually do not have $1 to make a movie. He goes, he says, if you're really good, what you will do is take that, you will spend 96, if you can spend 96 cents to make that $1, to make that movie look like you spent $1, you're golden. And the less money that you spend, but still make it look like that you put the whole $1 in, the better off you are. And it's a skill. It's a skill set. So where did you learn that skill set?
Oh, great question.
Did you have it? Did you have it before you started producing, or did you realize, wait a second, this $1, I need $1.50. I got to find out where I'm going to get another 50 from. But if I can do this for 75 cents, so where'd you learn that skill set?
So when I started producing, I had no idea what I was doing, and I just didn't have the money. Like, I just didn't. And I just kind of learned as I went. I got sponsors. I was able to find sponsors to, put ads in our program and scrape together a little bit of money that way. The theater company I was part of in New York, we were a resident artist group at a larger company who had space. So we were donated all of our rehearsal time for free. And we were given the performance space for free, but on a contingency. They took the first 12 tickets of every show, and every ticket beyond that, we split 50-50. Okay. So that's when you're doing theater, that's one of the biggest expenses, is you have an upfront cost of paying thousands of dollars for your theater space, and another upfront cost of paying thousands of dollars for your rehearsal space.
Yes.
Excuse me. The fact that we were able to get our performance space and rehearsal space for free and they only took money off of the back end as what allowed us to exist.
Right.
So that was major. So that was a big lesson too of, you know, getting partners, getting in-kind donations, getting deferred, you know, getting people to work for deferred payments. And yeah, most of my stuff, like everybody for the most part worked for free or minimal. Like when we did Dump Water Divas, the only person, the cinematographer got paid, the editor got paid, and our sound team got paid. I got the music for free from one of my friends. The director did it for free because he was happy to come on board. Once again, it was a 2-day shoot. We shot 6 episodes, 6 10-minute episodes in 2 days.
Wow.
And the cast, everybody worked for free. And we were able at the time, because the new media contract with the Screen Actors Guild was so new, that we were able to Taft-Hartley every single person who worked on the production as an actor. So basically we had a bunch of people who were not union, and we got them their union status through a Taft-Hartley contract. So for a lot of actors in LA, like getting in the union is a several year process.
Yeah.
So the fact that all of our actors and our extras, we were able to get into the union was a huge incentive for everybody to like come for free. And we fed everybody. I think the bulk of the budget went to feeding all these people. You know, because even if you're not paying people, you got to feed them properly. You know, we were there for 12 hours a day, and it was a dance spoof. So people were dancing and sweating and, you know, like, so we did feed them properly. Yeah. And I just kind of led with that attitude of, you know, this is all I have. This is all I have to make it with. And I'm going to make it no matter what, you know, and if I can get better people to come on for free or come on for deferred or whatever, great. And, you know, I wasn't trying to raise 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000 to do a short film, because I knew these short films were just calling cards for festivals. They weren't going to go on to become features. They weren't going to be able to monetize in any way. I was hoping, you know, that the web series would go viral or would be able to monetize a little bit on YouTube. But we made that whole project for like $2,000. I think every single project I made for about $2,000. And, you know, including my solo show, like, you know, at least per run, right? Each time I have to rent a theater and do a new mounting and pay a new director. That's another story. But yeah, at this point, I haven't done much. And it's true. It's all about calling in your favors. And if you have a project that other people believe in and that other people think is good and that they want their name on, it's a lot easier to get people on board, right?
Yes.
So like my short film Leash, I approached a female director who actually directed a play that I was a production consultant on, and she liked the idea, she liked the script. And I also said to her, I want to do an all-female principal team. I want a female cinematographer, female editor, female director. I'm a female writer, producer. Like I want to do a whole female team. And that was really appealing to her. So that kind of extra element is what inspired her to come on board and bring on a cinematographer and bring on an editor, you know? So I was like, what do they say? Like punching above my weight. Yeah. Because I had something of value that other people wanted to be a part of. And I think that's one of the big things. It's like, even though these are my projects and they're my calling card or, you know, my vehicle, they also have to serve to be somebody else's vehicle. And the more people who can have ownership over the project, and that's the thing with these creative projects, you know, whose film is it? Well, the director says, my film. The cinematographer says, my film. The editor says, my film. The actors say, my film. The producers say, my film. the writer says, my film, every single person, because it's such a collaboration, has ownership on the project. And as long as these people are jazzed about the project, they're enthusiastic, they feel like they're showcasing something worthwhile that they might not have had the opportunity to be a part of before. Maybe they get to stretch themselves in a way that they don't normally get cast, or it's a subject matter they just really like the script. You know, if you're offering somebody ownership of something they can be proud of, that's a really big incentive. And I think that's the good place to start.
Now, this is where does Christy Johnson fit in this? Because this is one of the clips I have here. Is this from that?
Christy. Her name is Christy. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christy Johnson. That's right, Christy Johnson.
Yes. Ever since she was baptized in Mormon. So that's Dumpwater Divas. That's my favorite thing I've ever done.
Okay, yeah, all right. When you were describing Dumpwater Divas, I wasn't sure, but you never mentioned Christy Johnson by name.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I do it. Please.
It's an honest mistake. Most people would not look at the name and say Christy. They would.
Yeah, but I listened to it and I heard her say it, and I'm usually pretty good. I don't usually have Alzheimer's. I don't usually.
You have to go put that in Urban Dictionary, like as soon as we get off. You got to claim that.
Okay, here we go. Christy Johnson. It's just a clip here. Say it.
You're Christy. Many of my fans remember me as little Christy Johnson. It's now Christy, since I was baptized in Mormon. You know, a born-again Mormon.
Hi, boys. Listen, thank you so much, boys. Another time.
I'll see you in the parking lot. Talent Stars has invited us back to be on a reunion show. I was part of Macaroni Hate, the dance team that took Talent Stars by storm. We made it all the way to the semifinals, but it wasn't God's plan for us to be the champions. How was that? You want a little more sexy? Jesus is okay with sexy.
Jesus is okay with sexy.
Oh my God. I love her so much. She's so horrible. I love her.
So who or what's the inspiration for Christy Johnson?
Okay. Well, you know, the look was like a little bit of like Madonna in like Desperately Seeking Susan. It was so the whole thing is an 80s dance spoof.
Yes, I'm telling you, to be honest, I mean to cut you, but it kind of reminds me of the old workout videos I used to see in the 80s, like Jane Fonda workout and that kind of thing. That's the kind of look. Jane Fonda, the one from Halloween, what's her name?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yes. So that's what it reminded me of. Yeah.
So I originally had this idea with an old boyfriend, and basically he bought me like a stereo for my birthday one year in LA, and we were playing music and we just started dancing like idiots. Like we just started dancing like total idiots, having a great time, you know, with my new stereo that he bought for my birthday. And we had this idea of like writing something where we had a dance school and we were dance instructors in some dumpy little small town in middle America, you know, where like 20 years later, like that, you know, we were children on a dance competition show like Star Search or whatever.
Right.
And 20 years later, we're still like the most famous people in the town. And we run the dance school, you know, because the town is so small and just kind of middle of nowhere, middle America. And I actually said like, you know, it kind of has this like Napoleon Dynamite vibe, you know, when you go into one of those small towns where like all the cars are old, you know, everybody's dressed in like, you know, stuff that's dated, you know, the jeans that they're wearing aren't in style anymore. So I kind of had that idea with him, and, you know, he and I went in our separate directions. And then when my friend Rebecca asked me if I wanted to write something with her, she's like, my husband bought me this really cool camera. Let's write a short film. Let's just write a short film and shoot something, just the two of us, and we can kind of make something together, a little short. And that's all we intended to do, was make a little short film. And she and I went to a Zumba class on a Sunday morning and then went for lunch. And she used to be a ballerina. She was like a prima ballerina back in the day, you know, when she was like in high school. And I said to her, well, we both enjoy dancing. And I said, this is like, and she knew my old boyfriend. We all went to acting class together in LA. We all met in the same place. And I said, you know, he and I had this idea. And I said, you know, he and I are never going to make this. Like, we're not together anymore. But do you think that this is a fun idea? You know? And I said, we can be like estranged friends, like, you know, and you own the dance school now. And I'm the one that like made it and got out of town. And I come back because they've invited us to be on a reunion show. And that's what it evolved into. But it started off, you know, with somebody else. And then I moved on, you know, and of course I asked him about it. And we wrote one of the roles for him to include him in it, but he wasn't available or didn't want to do it. Actually, we wrote the role, every single role in that we wrote for people we knew. Nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to do it with us. But when we held auditions, and this is another thing too, like for anybody out there who's looking to put a project together, sometimes it's good to go out of your network, because people who know you, and everybody we wrote it for was people from our acting class. We were part of an acting class in a theater company in Santa Monica. And all these people had a frame of reference about us, you know, because we had never really done anything before. This is one of our first projects. So everybody had a point of view and, you know, didn't really take it seriously. But when we posted auditions, like real auditions on a real casting site, and all of these other people who had no idea about anything about our ability or who we were came to audition, they took it really seriously and they really wanted these roles, you know, and when they read the script, like they were into it. So, you know, everybody was happy to be a part of it, as opposed to trying to convince other people, like twisting their arm, like, oh, it'll be such a, you know, like, don't do us any favors. We'll find some actors who are really passionate about this. And that's what we did. And like I said, each actor just brought something that the people we wrote it for would have never brought. Like, they brought it, you know, and they went above and beyond with their comedy and with their improv skills, because there was a lot of improv in shooting it as well.
Yes.
And they just went above and beyond. Like, I wrote these crazy scenario, crazy characters, crazy dialogue, and these people not only took it seriously, like they committed to it and took it to the next level. And I was just like, this is the best thing ever. Like, this is it's the best thing ever. Not only did I have so much fun, I gave the gift of bringing all these people on and letting them share their talents and take it to that level. Oh, so good. So I really lament that it never went anywhere.
You just answered a question I did not know I had. Because I have failed miserably many times trying to put together short films and stuff like that. And the mistake I was making, and I didn't realize it until just now, I was trying to get comedians to be in it, because that's most of my circle. I should have been reaching out to actors, because there's a difference between the selfishness level of a comedian and that of an actor. The actors, for them, it's like a craft. It's akin to a religion, I believe. But comedians, they're used to, they have a different mindset. I don't know if it's they don't respect other people's words or comedy, but actors are used to taking other people's words seriously. So I think actors, my neighbor produced a shot at pilot, and he says, do you want to be, do you want a significant part in it? Because he knows I do comedy. He knows I've done 90-minute sets, 90-minute shows. And so he assumed that I could act. And I said, no, I'm not a good actor. I take my words seriously, but your words, I will the whole time I'll be going, I think I could make that funnier. I think I could make that funnier. No, this is a funeral. I know, but I think I could get a laugh out of this. And so I got minor parts, something that was too short for me to really screw up. But the actors that I worked with, they brought it. Every last one of them became the characters. And they did what was required. Whatever the director would say, I need you to do this. They say, well, how do you want me to do this? Like this. Okay, got it. But I don't think you get the same thing with comedians. Now I'm not saying that there aren't comedians who aren't actors, but if they're not actors, if they don't have the acting bug, it's I don't think it's going to work out. At least it has not worked out for me. And I think that's the answer to my problems. I've been reaching out to comedians to help me work on short films and stuff, and I should have been reaching out to actors.
Yeah,
Yes.
and also sometimes you want to reach out to people outside of your network
Right.
because they don't have a frame of reference, right? And that was really beneficial for us. Like, of course, it's heartbreaking when you write a role for somebody and they're not interested. They don't even want to read the script.
Right.
Like, yeah, I have a friend who till this day, he's a friend of mine and he does stand-up comedy and he's been on some significant shows. And when I said to him, we're going to do a reading, we're doing a staged reading of my new script. Would you be willing to take a look at it and let me know, if you want to come and be a part of the reading? And he's like, I don't read scripts. Well, then how do you get parts? I don't know how to get parts without reading scripts.
Right.
Okay, fine. Don't read scripts. You don't need to read a script. That's fine. I don't know. I read scripts all the time. I read scripts every week. Anybody sends me a script, I'm happy to read it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll charge them. If they want feedback. But if it's a script
Right.
that they wrote a role for me, or it's a script that they're considering me being in, of course I'll read it. Of course I want the role. I want the part. I want to be hired. Yes. Thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah, now we also talk about the workshops. Well, I think did we cover in your mind, because we talked about consulting. In your mind, do you think we talked about the workshops as well, or?
Well, not really, but basically the workshops is I've broken it down into 7 steps, and that I actually have a new book. If I can
Independent
show you
theater production for the 21st century. Yes. I was gonna mention that.
Yes. So basically, that's a workshop I teach. And most recently, I taught it at Toronto Metropolitan University. And I basically broke theater production down into 7 steps. And I've done it for film production as well. I'm not advertising the workshop on my website right now because I'm refining it. But solo show development, also, I have 7 steps. And because 7 steps is manageable. If I said like 3,000 steps, people would be like, no, thank you.
Right.
I don't have 3,000 of anything. I don't even have $3,000 in my bank account. Like, no, thanks. No, so 7 steps is like a manageable number that people can kind of bite off and chew, but it's enough steps to like break it down into isolated kind of movements, right?
Right.
So yeah, I basically have broke down, film and theater production and solo show development into these manageable bite-sized pieces that are digestible, in order to help other people kind of learn the ropes of what to do. And I do think it's beneficial. Like if you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a production, you might want to take a little crash course in, how to do it, basically. Yeah. And that's what the book is. So it's like, okay, you don't want to take the time to do a course with me. Take a look at the book. And it's very concise, doesn't sugarcoat anything. It might be a little too blunt and a little too straightforward because I don't sugarcoat it. I break down numbers. I break down the reality of like, you're probably not going to make money. Don't take money out of your pocket. Here are some different avenues how you can raise money. Here's the order. Here's how you find people. You know, basically the nuts and bolts of like what you need to do to get your production off the ground.
I wish
And
I'd
if
met you
you
10 years ago. I wish I'd met you 10 years ago. Honestly, I've now the best advice I was ever given was that I should just don't wait for an opportunity to make my own. But that was all they said. That was all they told me. They didn't tell me any of the other stuff. And so I've invested, I've done probably 1, 2, 3, I think 4 90-minute shows. I've been doing comedy for almost 12 years. So in that time, I've done 4 90-minute shows that I've written and performed.
amazing.
And again, I'm not trying to toot my horn as much as the fact that if I didn't do it, I'd be waiting for someone else to discover me. And I was too prolific a writer, you know, and I can't do like a regular comedian will sit there and go, well, I'm going to perfect my 5-minute set and my 7-minute set. By the time they've perfected their 7-minute set, I've written another 90-minute set. And I don't have time to perfect it. I can act it out and it'll be great and entertaining. But the amount of money, so I call this overall documenting my funny. That's what I call it, documenting my funny. It's not that I expected these shows to make me a star. It's just that when my star fades, I want some evidence that I at least tried to shine. You know, so that's what it's all about. But if I had known you 10 years ago, or if I had this information 10 years ago, I probably could have saved I still would have done those 4 shows. I just probably could have done it in a more sensible manner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things is like, we all get so excited our first time around. We get excited with our first show, our first idea, you know, and of course we think we're the exception. If we didn't think we were the exception, we wouldn't be doing what we do. If we didn't think we were the one who was going to break through, we wouldn't be doing this, you know. However, I really like to bring artists back to reality and be like, you might be the one to break through. I hope you are the one to break through, but chances are it's not going to be your first rodeo. It might be your 5th or your 6th or your 10th. You know, it's very rare that like your first time out of the gate, it's a hit. And, you know, yeah, that's the big thing. And I learned that in New York producing theater when I was running that little theater company. And so first of all, I never had the money and I didn't have access to the money. I didn't know where to get it from on a large scale, but I knew I could do it for a small amount of money and call in favors and offer, like I said, offer things to other people that they would be proud to be a part of, you know, and that they would get something out of it in the creative sense and in the calling card sense. But yeah, and I think my book, the theater book, translates for any event. You don't have to be an actor or a writer or a director. You can be a comedian. You can be a dancer. You can be a mime. Yes, hi, I was a mime. I was a mime in New York for several years. I was with the American Mime Theater. But I'm just saying, any type of event, even if you're doing a fundraising event, you know, I think my advice kind of holds true for any kind of live event, because even if you're doing a fundraiser, you're going to spend money on that fundraiser. You're going to spend thousands of dollars between booking the venue and advertising and, you know, whatever. Like, yeah, you'll get silent auction items. You might get a liquor sponsor, because also creating an event to raise money is one of my avenues of fundraising. And it's going to be patchwork. You're not going to raise all the funds in one place. And then I also advise people to reverse engineer. Figure out, how many shows are you doing? How many seats? How much are you charging for the tickets? Well, what's the maximum you can make? Well, cut that in half because you're not going to make the maximum. You'll be lucky to make 50% of the maximum because part of your marketing plan is 2-for-1 tickets and discounted tickets. It's better to sell out every seat at half price,
Right.
than 20% of the seats at full price. So that's why I say find out your maximum, cut it in half. And if that's not enough, up the ticket sales. Like selling $20 tickets is not for a theater show. I'm not talking about stand-up comedy because theater is a little different. You need more moving pieces, right? You need sets and you need music and you need costumes and you need all these other things. $20 a ticket ain't going to cut it in 2026. I don't think it'll ever cut it again. You might end up only getting $20 a ticket, but you're going to have to charge $40 a ticket to get that 20. Because like I said, you're going to be doing the 50% discounts or the 2-for-1 tickets.
Well, maybe if they did a totally nude show, so they wouldn't have to spend so much on wardrobe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's getting into a different field though.
Well, it says,
but anyway,
it's
just practical advice. It's just practical advice that from my lived experience of having done this for almost 2 decades,
So you've been doing it since you were 5?
I was actually 4.5 when I started.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Now the independent theater production for the 21st century, I'm assuming that you're saying the 21st century because the things, not that the craft itself has changed. The art is still the art. The disciplines are still the discipline, and the rules are still the rules. But now we have different technologies that we have to deal with. Is that why it's for the 21st century?
Yeah, that's part of it. The other part of it is because when I was teaching this class at a university, I was Googling to try and find what resources were out there, to recommend some books, and different resources. And also I wanted to know for my own teaching, like if there were other ideas out there. And the last book published on theater production, there are of course there are books about acting and directing and, stagecraft. The last book about production was published in 1990. And I was like, okay, well, some things have changed. Yes. And yes, of course, technology, in the sense, like, if you don't have a social media page and you're not posting video, behind the scenes video, rehearsals video, gags with the actors video, like now that's part of your marketing plan and that has to be implemented. So having a designated 1 or 2 people at rehearsals, everybody's got a camera, everybody has a phone, everybody has a camera on their phone. So designating a good 5 to 10 minutes every single rehearsal, possibly during the breaks, where you're shooting some of that stuff, because you need to be posting content almost every day for a few months in order to get those butts in those seats. So that's one of the major things. And then also using AI, which, it's like, don't shoot the messenger, but for a low budget theater production where you're going to be netting $0, you're going to be lucky to break even. Well, maybe AI will do your poster. Maybe AI will make some original music for you. Maybe AI will do some of the things that if you didn't have AI do it, there would be no show. Right. Like I'm not big on AI taking jobs away. And if you're a big Broadway show and you're making millions and you're spending millions, like go fuck yourself if you're not going to hire a graphic designer or an artist to do your artwork. But, if you're barely scraping 10 grand together to do, like a 16 show performance for a month in June, you know what I mean? Like,
that may never run again.
Pardon?
I said, and it may never run again.
And it may never run again. Exactly. Or like having AI create some images that you're going to use on the projector because you don't have money to hire a carpenter and build sets and build, and hire a set designer that's going to cost you thousands of dollars, and then carpenters, and then the wood and the flats and the paint and you don't have that. You don't have that ability. So yeah, you're going to have AI generate some images, and it's just going to be projected onto the back wall. Yes, you're going to do that. And these are things that we weren't discussing in the 90s or the 70s or the 50s or, when the Greeks were doing their plays. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are all these other elements.
Back then, when the Greeks were doing it, they called it Aristotle intelligence. It was,
yes, exactly.
That was their AI. Sorry.
Exactly. Or when Shakespeare was like flooding his stages, it was all very different. And Shakespeare didn't need to advertise as much as we do because there wasn't as much competition out there.
Yes, almost everybody has a YouTube channel yes, it's all. Social media is the new Amway. I'm sorry for those of you who don't know what Amway is. You have to Google it.
Yeah, I know. No, but exactly. It's like everybody's doing it, and if you don't want to get lost in the shuffle, you have to be creative. You have to be creative about how you're going to get the word out.
And you're preaching to the choir, and I would the thing is that some people, to get attention, are appealing to the most basic nature of the most base of human nature to get attention. And while it may get you some attention, if you don't have the rest of what it takes to maintain it, you're just going to have your 15 minutes of fame, if that, and that's it, nothing more.
Yeah, and also you have to be comfortable with what you're leaving behind, because anything you put online, even if you take it down, it's going to be there. There are going to be ways for people to bring it back and cancel you in 30 years or whatever.
When you want to run, when you go to run for public office.
Exactly. But you have to decide like what you want to be known for. And if your level of integrity is at a certain place, then good for you, and go grab that bag. That's all I can say. But for me, even when I was doing stand-up comedy, like a lot of females, we start off with dirty jokes, because dirty jokes are easy and they're accessible, and we know the majority of the audience is going to laugh, when we talk about our bad dates, or we talk about bad sex, or we talk about body parts or whatever, and I started off insecure as a comedian, and I kind of defaulted to a lot of that lazy work, and I call it lazy because for me it was lazy. For other comedians, maybe they work really hard to write those jokes. For me, I was defaulting to something that I thought was an easy laugh. And and after getting a little comfortable and doing the scene in LA for a few months, I realized, like, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, do I want to be an Amy Schumer, or do I want to be a George Carlin? And, I did some soul searching, and I was like, if I'm going to be known for something, I do not. And props to Amy Schumer. Amy, you're awesome. You're awesome at what you do. You've conquered the world. You're amazing. But that's not for me. That type of humor isn't for me. That's not what I want to be known for, and that's not what I want my legacy to be. And that's when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to start working harder on my writing, and I'm going to cater to a little more of an intellectual repertoire. And that's when I started talking about veganism and talking about the environment and talking about things that were more important to me, as opposed to just trying to get the laugh, and a lot of times I made the audience uncomfortable, and I brought truths to life that nobody wanted to recognize. And you know what I mean? It was harder to get the laugh. It was harder to make these jokes land. I had to work a lot harder on them, but it was I felt like it was more worthwhile talking about that stuff than the other stuff.
Now,
And, and that's, everybody has to decide what they're comfortable with, and everybody's going to compromise. Everybody's going to face that crossroads of where they're going to have to compromise. It's like, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Do I want my script to get made and make these changes, or do I want to keep it exactly the way it is and blow every opportunity that I have at getting it made? Do I want to sell my script and make a good chunk of money, or do I want to hang on to it because I need to play the lead, even though 10 years have gone by and I'm 10 years too old to play that lead now? No, but you know what I mean?
I understand. No, because I was just, when you said that, I thought to myself, 10 years too old and 40 pounds too heavy. But
yeah, you know what I mean? And we all have to kind of make those decisions. And as long as you can sleep at night, and, we're all artists at the end of the day. And for you, you'd rather do a 90-minute special that talks to your artistry, that leaves your mark in the world, then work on your 7-minute set that, like, each joke is going to hit the same way every single time, and tour the country with those 7 minutes or those 10 minutes for 5 years until you get your next 10 minutes. And go. So everybody, it's choose your own adventure, and you got to do what fulfills you as an artist and what makes you happy as a creative. And, if you need to wiggle around a little bit to fit through a square peg, or fit through the round hole and you're the square peg. If you really want to go in that avenue, then wiggle around and reinvent yourself and do what you got to do. Like, if you want to stay the unique voice that you have and keep working and plugging away at that until one day it hits, do that too. Like, there's no right or wrong way. No two people have succeeded in the same path as creatives, whether you're a writer, a comedian, an artist, an actor, a musician. Like, everybody had to kind of pave the way for themselves. So there's no shame in it, as long as it makes you happy and you can live with yourself.
Now, you own a set of hats, career-wise. You own a lot of hats. And I'm assuming, and if you can believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you had to find your voice for each one of those hats. So well, I'm assuming that each hat has a different voice. So as a comedian, when you perform as a comedian, that voice is different than the voice that you found within you to be an actor. And that's a different voice than you found to be a writer. How do you find those voices? Because it takes time, as a general rule of thumb, to find, as a comedian, it takes you 3-4 years to find your voice. So how did you find your voice in those different skill sets?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because, like, cinematically, my genre is more like film noir. Like I have a short film called Leash. I have a short film called Details. Like, Dumpwater was a comedy. And then my last film, The Penis Fairy, was also a comedy. But The Penis Fairy was a satire about animal agriculture and how animals are treated on an assembly line. It's a metaphor, it's a satire. You got to really look between the lines to see it. But that's why I wrote it. Dumpwater Divas was a satire about people being obsessed with fame. So I really had some things a point I was trying to make and reflect back to society, even though I did it through the lens of comedy. But my film stuff, like my feature film I'm working on now, Longing, it's a very dramatic, racy, tumultuous romance, like heart-wrenching love story. And, I do kind of gravitate towards romance writing. Like, I grew up loving, like, David Lynch and Tarantino and Oliver Stone and
the great romance writers.
But they were very avant-garde. Their work was
yeah.
Like, I love Natural Born Killers, which was a love story.
Yes, it was. Yes.
But I liked really kind of dark, gritty film, and I didn't know I was funny. I didn't realize I was funny until much later in life, like I was in my late 20s when I realized I was funny. Like I didn't know that. I thought I was like this dark, brooding artist. So, and we all are multifaceted. And then like as a producer, when I started off as a producer, I was a total bitch. And it took me 10 years of producing to develop my signature phrase, if you're not having fun, you're fired. Like I started off I started producing when I was 22, and I was so stressed and I had no money to get the productions off the ground, and every step of the way was an uphill battle. And I'm sure the cast all hated me. Like if you went and found those people today and asked them about me, I would not want to know what they had to say. Meanwhile, over the years, as it's become second nature to me and I can troubleshoot and I know how to run a production and I know how to manage all the personalities and all the drama, now my whole thing is like, if you're not having fun, you're fired. Like we're here to have a good time. We're going to work our asses off, but we are going to have a good time doing it. And I think there's an evolution in anything when you don't know what you're doing to when you become, a certain level of proficiency or expertise at it.
It's
There's
funny
an ease to it.
It's funny that you mentioned it because we happen to have the people that used to work with you who think that you're a terrible human being right this way. It's a huge line. It's like we're going to be here for a while. I've given everybody 30 seconds to bitch and moan, so we're going to be here for the next 2 hours. Come on in, Liz. What's your name again? Christa what? Christa Johnson is your first person to complain about you. Now she thinks that the reason her star didn't shine is because you stomped on her dream. No,
yeah, but you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And even when I started off as a stand-up comedian, like I sucked. I thought it was great because I didn't understand stand-up comedy. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like with each hat, you kind of have to settle into it, and you do have to find a voice and find how to manage that. And sometimes the qualities that make me a great producer intimidate people from hiring me as an actor, because if they have less experience producing, they're afraid to bring on somebody who's produced more than them because they might see me as somebody who's going to judge them or try and correct them. Whereas that's not the case. It's not the case. Hire me. No, like it's, like one of my favorite things is just getting cast and showing up and knowing my lines. And I don't have to worry about the writing or the production or managing the teams or making the days or making sure we don't run out of time, to get to the next scene, or if all the equipment shows up on the truck. I love just showing up and knowing my lines and not having to think about any of that crap. That's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to do.
Now I have a question for you. Now, if you audition for something and you don't get the part, do you want them to tell you why you didn't get the part?
Yeah, of course.
I was just like, some people just like, I didn't get it. It doesn't matter, because sometimes, some people, it's just a rejection. Just to hear the no is bad enough. It's like, and now you're going to tell me why? So,
no, I want to know what I have to work on so I can get the next one. Sometimes it's just your look. Sometimes it's just, I don't buy you as this, or I don't buy you as that. Sometimes it's like this person has more followers on YouTube or more followers on social media. Like, you were great, but you just, you look too old, you look too young, half the time, more than half the time, it's stuff you can't change. It's stuff that you have no control over.
Yes.
And that's why build your following, build your followers, build your social media. I'm working at it. It's taken me years to like lean into it, but I'm finally I've hit that wall where it's like, I really need to build my following, because that does, it weighs in. It weighs in on those decisions as much as we want to think like, I'm good. It shouldn't matter. Oh, it does matter.
It does.
Matters.
It does. Yes, this is one of the things where size does matter. It shouldn't, but yes, the size of your following does matter. I hate to admit that. I am not a size matters kind of guy. I'm a look what I can do kind of guy.
I know.
And yeah.
I know, because that's old school, and we thought like our merit alone would get us there, and now it's very much not that. And but I've so enjoyed this conversation. I have a production meeting in 30 minutes for a play.
Okay, well, invite them in. Invite them in. I'm just no. Actually,
I want to have a chance to like, you know, use the ladies' room and have some water before I hop on my next call. But this is so much. This is my favorite kind of conversation. I love it.
Well, before you go, is there anything that you want to touch on that we did not touch on? Because I don't want to. No, go ahead.
I think we covered so much. We covered it all, and maybe, you know, I'll come back and we'll talk about some other stuff next time.
Okay, because just so you know, I literally did not get to any of these questions.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah. I got to this. I got to this page. I got to page 1 of 4. That's
okay. Yes. Okay. Well, we'll do it. We'll definitely do another session. But also, I tend to go long with my answers because I feel
that's
like
okay.
So much to say.
I want people to learn about you, know about you. Believe me, they know about me. As a matter of fact, I have a code. If I say to them, "You've heard this story before," so I'm going to wave my hand and. At the beginning, and when the story is over, I'm gonna wave it again, so you know you don't have to watch those parts. Just skip past the hand wave. But today I did not tell any of those stories, so I didn't have to do that. So
cool.
Jen, thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, GD. Yes. And when you bring that show to Toronto, you got to hit me up.
Oh, believe me, yes, and because I've done one thing in Canada, but I was on a cruise ship. So I've yet to produce a show on dry land there. Yeah, I was in port when I was on the cruise ships. I was in port. I didn't produce and the closest thing to a show on dry land, I was on a tour bus, and people had seen me on the cruise ship, and they said, "Do so and so." So I gave a performance on the bus for people who didn't see the show before.
Oh,
but that's
so much fun.
Yeah, so
awesome.
Yes. So I will be in touch with you. And I did not show, there's a couple of videos I did not show. I would just insert them. And you already answered the thing about details, because I have a picture from details, and I'll just insert that. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate everything you've shared with us today.
Thank you. This was such a fun conversation. Let's do it again. We'll do part 2.
Okay, you got it.
Take care, GD.
All right, bye now, Jen.